Hey guys, tonight we begin with a harsh reality check about life in medieval times. While movies make it look all castles and chivalry, the truth is you probably wouldn't survive until lunch on your first day. From the moment you woke up to diseases lurking in every corner, medieval life was basically a constant battle against death, dirt, and really bad dentistry. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture this. You wake up in the year 1347. No alarm clock, no phone buzzing, just the church bells clanging at 5 a.m. because apparently medieval people thought sleep was for the weak. You're lying on what can generously be called a bed, but it's really just a sack stuffed with straw that's been home to at least 3 generations of fleas. Your back hurts. Everything hurts, actually. That's because your mattress has the comfort level of a pile of twigs, which is essentially what it is. There's no memory foam, no pillow top, just you and some angry hay that pokes through the rough linen every time you move. The room is freezing because glass windows are for rich people, and you're definitely not rich. You got wooden shutters that don't quite close properly, so there's a lovely draft that's been caressing your face all night like an icy skeleton hand. You stumble out of bed and immediately step on the rush-covered floor. Rushes are just dry plants thrown on the ground to soak up, well, everything. They haven't been changed in months. They're basically a compost heap you're walking on, complete with mysterious squelching sounds and the occasional crunch of something you really don't want to identify. Time to get dressed. You own exactly 2 outfits if you're lucky. One for everyday wear, which is what you wore yesterday and the day before that, and the month before that. And one for church on Sundays, which is just your everyday outfit, but you try to wash it once last Easter. Your clothes are made of rough wool that itches like you're wearing an angry sheep. In summer, you sweat through them. In winter, they provide about as much warmth as tissue paper. Fashion choices include brown, slightly different brown, and if you're feeling fancy, brownish gray. Oh, and underwear? That's a luxury you can't afford. You're going commando under that scratchy wool tunic, my friend. Every day is a new adventure in chafing. You haven't even made it to breakfast yet, and already you're cold, itchy, and your feet are covered in mystery floor gunk. Welcome to your medieval morning. And trust me, it only gets worse from here. Now that you're dressed in your finest potato sack, it's time for your morning hygiene routine. Just kidding. There's no hygiene routine. Hygiene hasn't been invented yet. First up, brushing your teeth. Except toothbrushes don't exist. If you're feeling particularly fresh, you might rub your teeth with a rough cloth and some salt. Maybe chew on a twig if you're one of those fancy health-conscious medieval types. Most people just accept that their breath smells like a combination of last night's turnip stew and impending gum disease. Your teeth hurt constantly, by the way. No fluoride, no dentist, just a steady diet of bread. So, of course, it's basically edible sandpaper. By age 30, if you still have half your teeth, you're considered blessed by God. The other half? They fell out somewhere between your 20th and 25th birthday, probably while eating said sandpaper bread. Time to wash your face. You stumble outside the communal well, which is shared by you, your neighbors, their livestock, and probably a few rats. The water you pull up has a slightly green tinge and some floating things you choose to ignore. You splash it on your face and instantly regret it because it's freezing and smells like a pond. Soap? That's for nobles. You get to scrub with ash from the fireplace mixed with animal fat if you're lucky. It doesn't clean you so much as add another layer of grime with a slightly different texture. Your hair is a separate nightmare. You wash it maybe twice a year. If that, most of the time, you just tie it up and pretend those aren't lice having a party on your scalp. Everyone has lice. It's like a medieval membership card. No lice means you're probably a witch or something equally suspicious. Deodorant hasn't been invented, obviously. You smell like a combination of smoke, sweat, and whatever animals you've been near lately. But here's the thing, everyone smells like this. Your nose goes blind to it after a while. It's only when you meet someone who's been traveling and has added extra layers of stench that you notice. Shaving? Men might scrape their faces with a knife that's also used for eating, fighting, and general tool work. One slip, and you're adding bloody face wound to your morning look. Women don't shave anything because why would you when you're covered in 4 layers of clothes year round? By the time you're clean, you're actually dirtier than when you started. But at least you made an effort, which is more than most people can say. Time for breakfast, and boy, are you in for a treat. Breakfast time. Hope you're hungry for disappointment, seasoned with a side of more disappointment. Your morning meal consists of yesterday's bread. And when I say yesterday's bread, I mean it was baked yesterday, if you're lucky. More likely it's been aging like a fine wine, except instead of getting better, it's gotten harder. You need to dunk it in ale, just to avoid breaking your remaining teeth. Oh yes, ale for breakfast. Water will literally kill you, so everyone drinks weak ale, including children. It's like having a beer for breakfast every day, except it tastes like someone forgot to finish making beer and just gave up halfway through. If you're feeling particularly wealthy, you might have some porridge. And by porridge, I mean oats boiled in water until they reach the consistency of warm paste. No sugar, no cinnamon, no flavor of any kind. Just gray mush that sits in your wooden bowl looking depressed. Meat? That's funny. Meat is for special occasions like Christmas or when the Lord throws a feast, and you get to gnaw on the leftover bones. Most days, you're looking at bread, ale, and if you're lucky, some cheese that's hard enough to use as a weapon. Vegetables are seasonal, which means in winter you're eating turnips. So many turnips. Turnip soup, turnip stew, turnip surprise, which is just turnips, but you're surprised you have to eat them again. By February, you start having dreams where turnips chase you. Your eating utensils are a wooden spoon and your hands. Forks haven't been invented yet, because apparently medieval people enjoyed the challenge of eating soup with their fingers. You have one wooden bowl and one cup, both of which have never been properly washed, just wiped out with the same cloth you use on your teeth. The whole family eats together, crowded around a wooden table that wobbles because one leg is shorter than the others. You all reach into the same pot, double dipping with abandon because germs are a concept that won't be discovered for another 500 years. Breakfast takes about 10 minutes, not because you're rushed, but because there's only so long you can spend chewing rock-hard bread and questioning your life choices. Time to start your working day, and trust me, whatever job you get, it's going to involve backbreaking labor and zero appreciation. Now for the fun part, your career options. Spoiler alert, they all involve pain, exhaustion, and a life expectancy of about 35 if you're lucky. Most likely, you're a peasant farmer. Congratulations! Your job is to work land you don't own, grow food you can't eat, and give most of it to a lord who doesn't know your name. You wake up before dawn and work until after sunset, every single day except Sunday, when you get to go to church and be told you're probably going to hell anyway. Your farming tools are basically sharp sticks. A wooden plow if you're lucky, pulled by an ox if you're really lucky, or by you and your suffering family if you're not. You plant the same crops year after year, because crop rotation is a concept that hasn't been invented yet. So the soil is about as nutritious as dust. Maybe you're a blacksmith instead. Great. Now you get to spend all day next to a forge at approximately the temperature of the sun, hammering metal while sparks fly at your face. Safety equipment? Your safety equipment is hoping you don't get third-degree burns today. You'll definitely lose some fingers eventually. It's not a matter of if, but when, or perhaps you're a miller. Sounds peaceful, right? Wrong. Everyone hates you because they think you're stealing their grain, which you probably are because that's the only way to make a living. Plus, mills are death traps. One wrong move and you're crushed by a giant stone wheel. Fun. Women have exciting career opportunities too. You could be a farmer's wife, which means doing all the farming plus cooking, cleaning, child rearing, spinning, weaving, and somehow keeping everyone alive on turnips and determination. Or you could be a washerwoman, spending your days elbow deep in other people's filthy clothes, using lye that burns your skin off. If you're really unlucky, you might work in a tannery. That's where they turn animal skins into leather using a delightful mixture of animal brains, feces, and urine. The smell is so bad that tanneries are legally required to be outside of town. You'll never get the stench out of your clothes, your hair, or your soul. No matter what job you have, there's no workers' compensation, no sick days, no retirement plan. You work until you die, which probably won't take that long considering the working conditions. OSHA would have a heart attack just looking at any medieval workplace. Your boss is either a lord who sees you as slightly more valuable than his cattle, or a guild master who treats apprentices like indentured servants, because that's basically what they are. Either way, complaining about working conditions is a great way to end up in the stocks or worse. The payment for all this delightful labor? If you're a peasant, you might keep just enough food to not starve. If you're a craftsman, you might earn enough to buy slightly better bread. That's it. That's the medieval dream. Let's talk about where you live. And I use the term live very loosely here. Your house is made of wattle and daub, which sounds fancy until you realize it's just sticks held together with a mixture of mud, straw, and animal dung. Yes, you're literally living in a house partially made of poop. It's like the Three Little Pigs, except you're the pig with the stick house, and the big bad wolf is just a strong wind. The entire house is one room. That's your kitchen, bedroom, living room, and storage area all rolled into one aromatic package. If you're lucky, there might be a loft where you can store grain, and pretend you have a second floor. You share this palatial estate with your entire family. Parents, children, grandparents, that cousin who showed up 3 years ago and never left. Oh, and also your livestock. The cow sleeps inside during winter. The chickens roost in the rafters. The pig has claimed a corner. It's like a petting zoo, except you live in it and everything smells. There's no chimney, just a hole in the roof that theoretically lets smoke out, but mostly just lets rain in. The fire in the center of the room provides your heat, light, and cooking surface. It also fills the room with smoke that makes your eyes water constantly. You'll develop a permanent cough by age 12 that medieval doctors will diagnose as bad humors or possibly an excess of phlegm. Windows are just holes in the wall. Glass is for churches and rich people. You might have wooden shutters, or you might just stuff the hole with straw when it gets cold. Either way, the wind gets in, along with rain, snow, and the occasional confused bird. The floor is dirt. Not like, oh no, the floor is dirty. The floor is dirt. Packed earth that turns to mud when it rains, which is often because you live in medieval Europe where the weather is somehow always damp. You throw rushes and straw on top to absorb the moisture, but mostly they just rot and add to the general ambience of decay. Your furniture consists of a table made from a plank of wood, a few stools, and if you're fancy, a chest to store your belongings. Most people sleep on the floor on straw-filled sacks. The whole family sleeps together for warmth, which means you're constantly being kicked by your siblings and listening to Grandpa's medieval sleep apnea. Privacy doesn't exist. Want to change clothes? Everyone's watching. Need to use the bathroom? There's a bucket in the corner, and everyone can hear everything. Romantic moments with your spouse? Hope you're quiet because the kids are 3 feet away. The walls are so thin you can hear your neighbors arguing about whose turn it is to fix the fence. In summer, it's sweltering because air circulation hasn't been invented. In winter, you can see your breath indoors and sometimes wake up with frost on your blanket. But hey, at least you have a roof over your head. It leaks. It's made of thatch that occasionally catches fire, and it's probably hosting several families of rats. But it's home. Terrible, smelly, crowded home. Now, we need to address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the massive pile of human waste in the corner. Going to the bathroom in medieval times wasn't just inconvenient. It was an adventure in avoiding death by dysentery. There are no toilets. There are no sewers. There's barely even a concept of a way when it comes to waste disposal. If you're lucky, you have an outhouse. It's a small wooden shack with a bench that has a hole cut in it, positioned over a pit. The pit never gets emptied. It just gets fuller until someone digs a new pit and moves the shack. The smell could knock a horse unconscious. And in summer, the flies form a black cloud that follows you back to the house. If you're not lucky, you have a chamber pot. That a bucket you keep inside for nighttime emergencies. In the morning, you get to carry your family's collected waste outside and dump it. Where? Wherever seems good. The street, the garden, that spot behind the house where nothing grows anymore. In towns, people just throw out the window. There's supposed to be a warning cry of Gardelou, which comes from the French. Gardes l'eau, meaning watch out for the water. Except it's not water. It's definitely not water. Walking down a medieval street means constantly looking up to avoid getting a surprise shower of human waste. Public latrines exist in some towns. These are communal toilets where you sit on a long bench with holes cut in it, right next to strangers doing their business. No dividers, no privacy, just you and 5 other people trying not to make eye contact while nature calls. The waste drops directly into the river below, which is also where the town gets its drinking water. Circle of life. Toilet paper? That's not a thing for another 500 years. You use whatever's handy. Leaves, moss. Hey, your left hand in a bucket of water if you're feeling fancy. Rich people might use scraps of fabric. Everyone else just makes do with whatever won't give them a rash. And here's the best part. Human waste is valuable. Farmers collect it to use as fertilizer. There are actually people whose job is to shovel human waste out of cesspits. They're called gong farmers, and they work at night because even medieval people have some standards. They're paid well because nobody else will do it, but they're also social outcasts who have to live outside town because they smell like, well, exactly what you'd expect. Washing your hands afterward, maybe you splash them in that bucket of questionable water. Maybe you wipe them on your clothes. Maybe you just don't. Germ theory is centuries away. So nobody really understands why everyone keeps dying of mysterious stomach ailments. The bathroom situation is so bad that when noble visitors come to castles, they sometimes prefer to camp outside rather than deal with the indoor facilities. When actual medieval nobles are choosing to poop in the woods rather than use your bathroom, you know things are dire. Let's check in on your health, shall we? Spoiler alert, it's not good. It's never good. Medieval medical care is essentially a mix of prayer, superstition, and treatments that actively make things worse. Feeling sick? Let's see what your options are. First, you could visit the local wise woman. She knows herbs, which is helpful, but she also thinks illness is caused by evil spirits, which is less helpful. Her treatment might involve actual medicinal plants, or it might involve tying a dead toad around your neck. It's really a coin flip. If you're rich enough, you might see an actual physician. He's studied at university, which means he's read a lot of books written by ancient Greeks who thought the body was controlled by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Sick? You obviously have too much of one humor. Time for bloodletting. Bloodletting is the medieval answer to everything. Fever? Drain some blood. Headache? Drain some blood. Broken leg? Better drain some blood just to be safe. They use leeches if they're feeling fancy, or just cut you open and let you bleed into a bowl. Shockingly, this often makes people feel worse. Surgery is performed by barbers. Yes, the same guy who cuts your hair also cuts off your gangrenous toe. Anesthesia is a leather strap to bite on, and maybe some strong ale if you're lucky. The survival rate is about what you'd expect from someone operating with the same tools they use to trim beards. Got a toothache? The barber surgeon will yank that tooth right out with pliers that haven't been cleaned since the last patient. Infection? What's that? Just put some honey on it and pray. The plague is always lurking around the corner. The Black Death will kill 1/3 of Europe's population, and the medical establishment's response will be to blame it on bad air, Jewish people, or planetary alignment. Their treatments include sitting in sewers to drive out bad air with worse air, drinking mercury, or covering yourself in human feces. Surprisingly, none of these work. Even if you avoid the plague, there's still typhoid, cholera, dysentery, tuberculosis, and about 100 other diseases waiting to kill you. And that's before we get to workplace accidents, infected cuts, food poisoning from rotten meat, or just falling off your horse. Childbirth is basically Russian roulette. 1 in 3 women die either during birth or from infections afterward. Midwives do their best with herbs and experience, but when things go wrong, there's not much anyone can do except pray and prepare for a funeral. Mental health treatment is somehow even worse. Depression? You're clearly possessed by demons. Schizophrenia? Definitely witchcraft. The treatments range from exorcism to drilling holes in your skull to let the evil spirits out. The average life expectancy is about 35, and that's if you make it past childhood. Half of all children die before age 5 from diseases that a simple antibiotic could cure today. But hey, at least medical care is affordable, mostly because it's worthless and often makes things worse. So when you inevitably get sick from drinking contaminated water, eating spoiled food, or just existing in medieval times, remember, the cure is probably worse than the disease. Now you might think, at least I can make some friends to share my misery with. Think again. Medieval social life is about as fun as everything else in this era, which is to say not at all. Your social circle consists of the same 12 people you've known since birth. That's your family, your neighbors, and maybe the blacksmith who lives 2 mud huts down. You'll see these exact same faces every single day until one of you dies, which statistically won't take long. Want to meet new people? Too bad. Travel is dangerous, expensive, and pointless since the next village is exactly like yours, but with slightly different turnips. The most exotic person you'll ever meet is a traveling merchant who smells like he hasn't bathed since the last king died. Entertainment options are limited. There's no books because you can't read. There's no theater unless a traveling group happens to pass through once every 5 years. There's no music except for drunk farmers singing off-key ballads about how much their life sucks. Your main entertainment is gossip. Who's sleeping with whom? Whose cow gave birth to a 2-headed calf? Who forgot to go to church last Sunday? This is your Netflix, your social media, your entire entertainment industry rolled into one. The problem is, it's the same gossip recycled over and over because nothing new ever happens. Sundays are fun though. You get to go to church where a priest yells at you in Latin, a language you don't understand, about how you're definitely going to hell. The service lasts 3 hours. You have to stand a whole time, and if you fall asleep, you get publicly shamed. After church, there might be socializing in the square. By socializing, I mean standing around complaining about the weather, the crops, and your various ailments. It's like Facebook, but everyone's status update is still dying consumption or turnips again. Holidays are the highlight of your social calendar. Christmas, Easter, and a few saints' days where you get to eat slightly better food and get drunk on slightly stronger ale. There might even be dancing, which is just jumping around arrhythmically while someone tortures a fiddle. Dating is weird. You'll marry whoever your parents choose, usually someone from the same village you've known since you were toddlers. Romance involves holding hands after church while both your families watch. Your wedding night takes place in the same one-room house as your entire family. So, privacy is not a thing. Friendship is mostly about survival. You help your neighbor bring in his harvest. He helps you when your roof collapses. It's less hanging out and more mutual aid society against the harsh realities of medieval existence. And forget about alone time. You're never alone, ever. There's always someone within arm's reach, whether it's your family, your neighbors, or just the cow. The concept of personal space won't be invented for another 400 years. Your entire social life revolves around work, church, and trying not to die. There's no leisure time because when you're not working, you're preparing for work, recovering from work, or doing different work. Fun hasn't been invented yet, but at least everyone's equally miserable, so there's a sense of community in the shared suffering. You're all in this together, even if this is a life of unrelenting hardship punctuated by occasional turnips. Let's talk about the wonderful world of medieval education. Just kidding, you're not getting an education. You're getting a lifetime of ignorance with a side of superstition. First off, literacy is for rich people and priests. That's it. If you're a peasant, learning to read is about as likely as learning to fly. Why would you need to read anyway? It's not like there are books. The only book in your entire village is the Bible. It's in Latin, and the priest guards it like it's made of gold. Your education consists of whatever your parents teach you, which is basically how to not die while farming. Your dad shows you how to plow a field. Your mom shows you how to make bread that won't kill you immediately. That's your Harvard and Yale right there. Numbers? You can count to about 20, maybe higher if you use your toes. That's enough to know how many turnips you have and how many the Lord is taking. Advanced mathematics like division or, God forbid, fractions might as well be witchcraft. History education is just whatever stories the old people tell, which get more elaborate with each telling. By the time you hear about the last war, your grandfather has personally slain 200 enemies with his bare hands and saved the king's life twice. Science education is particularly fun. The earth is definitely flat. The sun revolves around it. Stars are either angels or holes poked in the sky by God. Disease is caused by bad smells or sin, usually both. Thunder is God bowling. These aren't theories. These are facts as far as you're concerned. If you're extremely lucky and male, you might become an apprentice to a craftsman. This means 7 years of being basically a slave who occasionally learns something useful. You'll spend most of your time fetching tools, cleaning up, and being yelled at. But hey, at least you'll learn a trade beyond dirt farmer. Girls get an even rawer deal. Your education is how to be a good wife, which involves cooking, cleaning, having babies, and not complaining about any of it. If you're really lucky, you might learn to spin wool or weave. That's the full extent of female educational opportunities. The church provides the only formal education, but it's only for boys who are going to become priests. They learn Latin, how to copy manuscripts really slowly, and theology that basically boils down to everything is God's will, especially your suffering. Critical thinking is actively discouraged. Asking questions is dangerous. Why do we give most of our food to the Lord? That's sedition. Why does God let babies die? That's heresy. Why does the priest have gold candlesticks while we eat turnips? That's a great way to get excommunicated. Your worldview is approximately 3 miles in diameter. That's as far as you've ever traveled, and as far as you ever will. Everything beyond that might as well be Mars. You've heard of London, but it's a mythical place where the king lives, like Atlantis but with worse weather. The sum total of your knowledge is how to farm, how to suffer, which mushrooms will kill you, and about 6 Bible stories that you half remember. That's it. That's your entire intellectual arsenal for navigating life. But hey, at least you're not anxious about college admissions or student loans. You're anxious about whether you'll survive until next Tuesday, which is a much more straightforward concern. Time for everyone's favorite topic, medieval justice. Where the punishments are creative, the trials are insane, and actual justice is purely coincidental. Let's say you're accused of a crime. Doesn't matter if you did it or not. What matters is that someone important thinks you did. Your trial options are basically a choose-your-own-adventure of horrible outcomes. Option 1, trial by ordeal. This is where they test your innocence by seeing if God will save you from various terrible fates. The hot iron test is popular. You carry a red-hot iron bar 9 paces. If your hand heals cleanly in 3 days, you're innocent. If it festers and rots, you're guilty. Spoiler, it always festers and rots. Or maybe you prefer trial by water. They tie you up and throw you in the river. If you float, you're guilty because water rejects evil. If you sink and drown, congratulations, you were innocent. Too bad you're dead. It's a real win-win situation. Trial by combat is for nobility, where you fight your accuser to the death. God will ensure the innocent person wins, apparently. Unless God's busy that day, in which case the guy with better armor wins, and justice takes a holiday. If you somehow survive your trial and are found guilty, the punishments are spectacular in their cruelty. Stealing bread? That's a hand chopping. Steal again with your remaining hand? Now you lose a foot. It's like a very violent version of the hokey pokey. The stocks and pillory are for minor offenses. You get locked in wooden restraints in the town square, while people throw rotten vegetables at you. And by vegetables, I mean anything they can find, including rocks, dead animals, and human waste. It's entertainment for the whole family. More serious crimes get more creative punishments. Gossiping women might get the scold's bridle, an iron mask that clamps their tongue down. Because nothing says justice like elaborate torture devices designed specifically for women who talk too much. Murder might get you hanged, but not in the quick neck-snapping way. Medieval hanging is slow strangulation while you dance on air for the crowd's amusement. Takes about 20 minutes, during which you have time to really think about your life choices. Heresy or treason. That's burning at the stake. where they tie you to a post and light a fire under you. If you're lucky, the smoke kills you before the flames do. If you're not lucky, well, let's just say it's not a quick process. And here's the best part. There's no real investigation. Someone says you stole their chicken, that's evidence. A neighbor doesn't like you and claims you cursed their cow, which trial time. Actual proof is for future centuries with their fancy evidence and due process. The lord of the manor is judge, jury, and sometimes executioner. He might be drunk, illiterate, or just having a bad day. Your fate depends entirely on his mood and whether he likes your face. Oh, and if you're thinking of running away, don't. Medieval justice follows you. They'll put out a hue and cry, which is basically everyone yelling and chasing you with farm implements. If they catch you, running is considered proof of guilt. The whole system is designed not for justice, but for maintaining order and entertainment. Public executions are festivals. People bring snacks, children get the day off work, and there's probably guys selling commemorative execution pottery. But look on the bright side. At least the legal system is straightforward. You're probably guilty of something. The punishment will be horrible, and everyone gets a show. What more could you want from justice? Speaking of shows, let's talk about medieval fashion. Prepare to be underwhelmed by your spectacular lack of options. Your wardrobe consists of the outfit you're wearing right now. That's it. That's your entire fashion collection. One set of clothes that you wear every single day until they literally fall apart, which takes about 2 years if you're careful. The height of peasant fashion is a tunic, which is basically a potato sack with holes for your head and arms. It's made of wool, because that's all there is. Scratchy, hot in summer, not warm enough in winter, and it smells like wet sheep whenever it rains. Colors? You get brown. Various shades of brown, ranging from mud brown to slightly different mud brown. Occasionally gray if you're feeling adventurous. Bright colors are for rich people because dyes are expensive. You're stuck with whatever color sheep naturally come in. Your tunic reaches to about your knees, and underneath you wear hose, which are like thick tights that bag at the knees and ankles. They're held up with strings tied to your belt because elastic hasn't been invented yet. They constantly fall down, giving you that fashionable sag-a-diaper look. Women get to wear basically the same thing, but longer. A long tunic over another long tunic. Maybe a belt if you're fancy. Hair must be covered because visible hair is apparently scandalous, so you wear a linen cap that makes you look like a sad mushroom. Shoes are a luxury. Most of the time you're barefoot, even in winter. If you do have shoes, they're basically leather bags tied around your feet. They offer zero support and negative protection from the elements. They also smell like death after about a week. In winter, you don't get a coat. You just wear all your clothes at once. Both tunics, your cloak, maybe some rags wrapped around your extremities. You look like a walking laundry pile, but at least you're slightly less cold. Accessories? Your accessory is dirt. Dirt on your clothes, dirt under your nails, dirt in your hair. It's very avant-garde. You might have a belt made of rope and a small pouch to carry your nothing in. Washing clothes is a quarterly event at best. You beat them against rocks in the river, which removes some dirt but adds river smell. Then you hang them to dry, during which time they become stiff as boards. Putting on freshly washed clothes is like wearing cardboard. Rich people, meanwhile, are walking around in silk and fur and colors that actually exist in the rainbow. They have multiple outfits, jewelry, and shoes with pointed toes, so long they have to be tied to their knees. You hate them, but you also can't stop staring because they look like magical peacocks compared to your potato sack aesthetic. Fashion trends don't exist for peasants. Your great-grandmother wore the same style tunic. Your great-granddaughter will wear the same style tunic. The only evolution in peasant fashion over 500 years is that tunics got slightly shorter, which was considered scandalous. The concept of dressing up means wearing your less stained tunic to church. That's the full extent of your formal wear. There's no little black dress, no power suit, just your Sunday tunic, which is identical to your everyday tunic, but you've tried harder to scrub the visible food stains off. But hey, at least getting dressed is simple. You wake up, put on your one outfit, and you're ready for the day. No standing in front of a closet, wondering what to wear. Fashion anxiety is for people with choices, and you definitely don't have any of those. Let's discuss leisure time. Just kidding, you don't have any. But let's pretend you somehow finished all your backbreaking labor, survived another day without dying of plague, and have 5 minutes before sunset. What entertainment awaits? Your options are severely limited. There's no Netflix, no books, no music except what you make yourself. Entertainment is basically staring at things and hoping something interesting happens. The tavern is your main social hub, assuming your village is big enough to have one. It's a dark, smoky room that smells like spilled ale, unwashed bodies, and despair. The ale tastes like someone forgot to finish making it, but it's alcohol, so you'll drink it anyway. Tavern games include dice, which are definitely loaded, arm wrestling. Someone always breaks something, and the ever-popular drink until you forget your horrible life. Sometimes there's a traveling minstrel who knows 3 songs, all of which are about how much life sucks in slightly different keys. Sunday after church is your big entertainment slot. You might watch a morality play, which is theater where the message is always you're going to hell unless you give the church more money. The acting is terrible. The costumes are just regular clothes with signs saying things like greed or death, but it's the only show in town. There might be dancing on holidays. Medieval dancing is basically jumping up and down while holding hands in a circle. There's no rhythm, no real steps, just enthusiastic bouncing while someone murders a fiddle in the background. Blood sports are huge. Bear baiting, where dogs attack a chain bear, is considered wholesome family entertainment. Cockfighting, dogfighting, and public executions all draw big crowds. Nothing says fun day out like watching animals or people die horribly. If you're really lucky, a fair might come to a nearby town once a year. There are jugglers who drop things, acrobats who aren't very acrobatic, and merchants selling things you can't afford. The highlight is usually someone with the exotic animal, like a monkey that's clearly just a shaved dog with a hat on. Storytelling is a big deal. Old people tell the same stories you've heard 1,000 times, but you listen anyway, because what else are you going to do? The stories always involve someone's grandfather doing something impossible, like killing 20 wolves with his bare hands, or building a church in a single day. Kids play with toys made of sticks and imagination. A stick can be a sword, a horse, a person, or all 3 at once. Dolls are made of rags and nightmares. Balls are inflated pig bladders, which smell exactly like you'd expect. Gambling is everywhere, despite being technically illegal and definitely sinful. People bet on everything. Which raindrop will reach the bottom of the window first? How many teeth the blacksmith has left? Whether the miller's wife is pregnant again? The stakes are usually negligible because nobody has any money. Music exists, but it's rough. Instruments are handmade and sound like someone torturing wood. The songs are either religious, boring, or about drinking and fighting, slightly less boring. Everyone sings along off-key, creating a sound that could curdle milk. Board games exist for the wealthy. Chess is around, but you'll never play it. You might play 9 Men's Morris, which involves moving stones around a board and pretending it's fun. Most games are just elaborate ways to pass time until you die. Reading is entertainment for the 1% of people who can actually read. They have maybe 3 books, all religious, which they read over and over while feeling superior to everyone else. Gossip remains a primary entertainment. Who's sleeping with whom? Who's dying of what? Whose cow gave birth to a calf with 2 heads? It's like reality TV, except it's actually real and usually involves dysentery. Your imagination is your best entertainment. Daydreaming about having food that isn't turnips, clothes that don't itch, or a life that doesn't involve constant suffering. It's free, it's always available, and it's the only escape you've got. But mostly when you have free time, you sleep. Because tomorrow is another day of backbreaking labor, and rest is the most luxurious entertainment you can afford. Let's talk about romance and marriage in medieval times. Spoiler alert, it's about as romantic as everything else in this era, which is to say it's a business transaction with occasional feelings. First off, forget about dating. You don't date. You get married to whoever your parents decide will provide the best alliance of turnip fields. Love is a luxury for poets and rich people. You get compatibility based on whose cow pasture borders whose. You've known your future spouse since birth because they live 3 houses down. There's no mystery, no excitement. You've seen them with flux, covered in mud, and picking their nose during church. Romance. The proposal process goes like this. Your parents talk to their parents, possibly exchange a goat or two, and boom, you're engaged. Your input is neither required nor wanted. If you're lucky, you don't actively hate each other. The wedding is the social event of the year, mainly because it involves slightly better food than usual. Everyone in the village comes, not because they care about your happiness, but because there might be meat. Your wedding night takes place in the same one-room house where your entire family lives. Yes, your parents, grandparents, and siblings are all right there, pretending to sleep while you consummate your marriage 3 feet away. Privacy is a concept that won't exist for another 400 years. Marriage is primarily about survival and producing farmhands. Romance is what happens when you both survive cholera and realize you don't completely despise each other. That's the medieval equivalent of a Nicholas Sparks novel. Your honeymoon is getting up the next morning and going back to work in the fields. There's no trip to the beach, no couples massage. Your special wedding gift to each other is continuing to not die. Birth control doesn't exist unless you count hoping and praying as methods. You'll have approximately 1 baby per year until your body gives out or you die in childbirth. The church says every child is a blessing, which is easy to say when you're not feeding them turnips. Divorce isn't really a thing unless you're rich and can bribe the church. Annulment requires proving the marriage was never valid, usually by claiming your spouse is your secret cousin or impotent. Most people just suffer in silence or hope their spouse dies young. Adultery is punished severely, especially for women. Men might get a slap on the wrist. Women get public humiliation, head shaving, and possibly stoning. The double standard is strong enough to build a castle on. Marital disputes are resolved by whoever can yell loudest or hit hardest. There's no couples counseling, no working through your issues. You just live in angry silence punctuated by arguments about whose turn it is to muck out the pigsty. The most romantic gesture available is giving your spouse the bigger piece of bread at dinner. That's it. That's peak romance. No flowers, they're for eating. No chocolates. What's chocolate? No love letters you can't write. Your sex life is regulated by the church, which has opinions about when, how, and why you can do it. Basically, only for procreation, only in one position, and definitely not on Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, during Lent, Advent, or if you're feeling too happy about it. True love, if it exists, is expressed through practical things. Helping with the harvest, not dying during childbirth, sharing your ale when times are tough. It's not poetry and passion. It's partnership in the face of relentless hardship. But occasionally, just occasionally, 2 people actually like each other. They work together, laugh together, and face the horrible reality of medieval life as a team. It's not the romance novels would write about, but in a world this harsh, finding someone who makes the suffering bearable is its own kind of love story, just with more turnips and dysentery than usual. Time to delve into everyone's favorite medieval topic, hygiene, or as medieval people called it, what's hygiene? Bathing is not a regular activity. The church actually discourages it because being naked, even alone, might lead to sinful thoughts. Plus, hot water is a luxury, and cold water in medieval Europe is basically liquid hypothermia. You might bathe twice a year if you're fastidious. Once at Easter, once before your wedding, and that's being generous. Most people just don't. They believe that dirt actually protects you from disease, forming a protective crust on your skin. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. When you do bathe, it's in a wooden tub that the whole family uses. Dad goes first, obviously, then mom, then children in descending order of age. By the time it's a baby's turn, the water looks like swamp soup and probably has things living in it. Public bathhouses exist in some towns, but they're basically brothels with water. The church condemns them, probably because people are having too much fun being clean for once. Also, sharing bath water with strangers is a great way to catch whatever plague is trending this year. Your hair care routine is simple. Don't. You might wash it when you bathe, so twice a year. But mostly you just let it do its own thing, which is usually hosting a thriving ecosystem of lice, fleas, and other creatures who set up a civilization in your scalp. Dental hygiene is particularly delightful. You clean your teeth by rubbing them with a rough cloth and maybe some salt. There's no toothpaste, no mouthwash, just a gradual decay of your teeth and breath that can knock out a horse. Some people chew mint or fennel to freshen their breath, but it's like putting perfume on a garbage dump. Everyone's breath smells like death, so at least you're all in it together. Deodorant hasn't been invented. Everyone smells like a combination of sweat, smoke from the fire, whatever animals they've been near, and their own special blend of body odor that's been cultivating for months. Women during their periods use rags, which they wash and reuse. If they're lucky. If not, they use moss leaves or just bleed freely and hope for the best. It's exactly as comfortable and hygienic as it sounds. Skin care is not a thing. Your skin is whatever texture years of dirt, sun, wind, and manual labor have made it. Wrinkled, leathery, and cracked is a look everyone's sporting. Moisturizer is animal fat if you're desperate. Laundry happens when clothes are so dirty they're literally stiff. You beat them against rocks in the river, which removes some dirt but adds river smell. Soap is made from animal fat and ash, and it's about as effective as you'd expect. The concept of clean is relative. You're clean if you're less dirty than yesterday. Your clothes are clean if they're not actively crawling with vermin. Your house is clean if you can walk across the floor without sticking to it. Perfume exists for rich people. It's made from flowers and herbs and costs more than your house. Poor people's perfume is the smoke from the fire, which at least masks some of the other smells. Everyone has parasites. Lice, fleas, worms, you name it. They're not seen as a problem to solve, just a fact of life, like taxes and death. But the irony is that medieval people think they're being healthy by avoiding baths. They believe water opens your pores and lets disease in. So they stay dirty to stay healthy, which works about as well as you'd expect. But here's the thing. Everyone's equally disgusting, so there's no shame in it. When everyone smells like a barn fire, nobody smells like a barn fire. It's democracy through shared filth. Let's wrap up your delightful medieval experience by talking about death. Because in medieval times, death isn't just common, it's basically your roommate. The life expectancy is about 35 if you're lucky. That's not because people naturally die at 35. It's because so many die in infancy that it drags the average down. If you make it to adulthood, you might see 50. Maybe, if you're very careful and very lucky. Death is everywhere. Infant mortality is about 30%. That means 1 in 3 babies doesn't make it to their first birthday. Childhood diseases that are minor inconveniences today are death sentences. Measles, mumps, whooping cough, they're all killers. Women have it especially rough. Between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women die in childbirth or from complications shortly after. Every pregnancy is a roll of the dice with death. But it's not just disease. There's so many creative ways to die. Infected cuts, no antibiotics. Food poisoning, no refrigeration. Accidents, no safety regulations. Violence, no effective law enforcement. Starvation, no social safety net. And good old-fashioned, we don't know what killed them, but they're definitely dead. The plague is the superstar death. When it hits, it kills between 30 to 60% of the population. Entire villages disappear. Bodies pile up faster than they can be buried. The smell is indescribable. Workplace deaths are common. Farmers get kicked by horses, crushed by carts, or just work themselves to death. Blacksmiths burn or maim themselves. Millers get caught in their own millstones. Every job is a potential death trap. Even minor injuries can be fatal. Break a bone? If it doesn't set right, infection will kill you. Cut yourself? Without proper cleaning, gangrene sets in. Tooth infection? It can spread to your brain. War is a constant threat. Not big, organized war, but raids, skirmishes, and general violence. Lords fight each other. Bandits attack travelers. And you're caught in the middle, usually fatally. Execution is public entertainment. Hanging, beheading, burning at the stake, all performed in the town square, while people eat snacks and cheer. It's like a really morbid sporting event. When death comes, and burial is quick. No embalming, no preservación. You're wrapped in a shroud, if your family can afford one. and stuck in the ground before you start to smell worse than you did alive. The church promises eternal life, but only if you've been good, paid your tithes, and haven't committed any of the approximately 1,000 mortal sins. Otherwise, it's eternal damnation for you. Graveyards are overcrowded and constantly being reused. Your bones will be dug up in a few years to make room for the next person. Nothing is permanent, not even your grave. People are remarkably casual about death because it's so common. Children play in graveyards. Executions are family outings. Death is just another Thursday in medieval times. The grief is real but brief. When you lose multiple children, siblings, and spouses, you can't afford to mourn too long. There's work to do, and the living need to keep living, at least until it's their turn. Your funeral is simple: a hole, a prayer, and if you're really lucky, a wooden cross that will rot away in a few years. No elaborate ceremonies, no lasting monuments. You lived, you suffered, you died. The end. But here's the twisted beauty of it. In a world where death is so present, life becomes precious in a different way. Every day you don't die is a small victory. Every meal is a celebration of continuing to exist. So there you have it, your day in medieval times. You'd wake up miserable, spend a day in backbreaking labor, eat terrible food, live in squalor, and probably die young from something preventable. But humans are adaptable creatures. People found joy in small things, loved their families, celebrated what they could, and kept going. Because what else could they do? We romanticize the medieval period with its castles and knights and courtly love. But the reality was brutal, short, and filled with suffering that we can barely imagine today. So the next time you complain about your Wi-Fi speed or your coffee being too cold, remember, at least you're not a medieval peasant. At least you have antibiotics, indoor plumbing, and food that isn't 90% turnips. You wouldn't last a day in medieval times. But then again, neither did most medieval people. They just lasted slightly longer before something horrible happened. Sweet dreams, and be grateful for your modern mattress, your clean water, and your distinct lack of plague. Tomorrow you'll wake up in the 21st century, and that's already a victory our medieval ancestors could never imagine.